Board Member Jackson, we are streaming.
Thank you, Sal. I would like to call this meeting to order. Welcome to the Board of Education Audit Committee meeting. Oh, I just said that. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Dr. Albright, may I have a roll call, please?
Ronaldo Tomarito.
Here.
Heather Benavides.
Here.
Josefina Dominguez. Josefina Dominguez.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay.
Sorry. Renette Apodaca.
Here.
Savannah Visaraga. Sarah Shankar McCoy. Courtney Jackson.
Here.
Dr. Gabriella Blakey.
Here. Okay, thank you. Our first item on the agenda is to consider adoption of the April 22nd, 2025 Audit Committee meeting agenda. May I have a motion, please?
I move that we consider adopting the April 22nd, 2025 Audit Committee meeting agenda. This is Board Member Benavides.
And I will second. Go ahead. Go ahead. Board Member Tomarito.
All right, we have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Ronaldo Tomarito.
Yes.
Heather Benavides.
Yes.
Josefina Dominguez.
Yes.
Sarah Shankar McCoy. Superintendent Blakey.
Yes.
Renette Apodaca.
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes. Our next item is to consider approval of the minutes from the Audit Committee meeting on January 21st, 2025. May I have a motion, please?
I move to approve the minutes from the Audit Committee meeting on January 21st, 2025. This is Josefina Dominguez.
And I'll second. This is Board Member Benavides.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Ronaldo Tomarito.
Yes.
Heather Benavides.
Yes.
Josefina Dominguez.
Yes.
Superintendent Blakey.
Yes.
Renette Apodaca.
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes. All right. So we do not have any action items tonight, so I'll move to discussion items. Our next item is the report on the ethical advocate statistics for the period of December 1st, 2024 through March 31st, 2025. Our presenter tonight is Jean Saavedra, the Executive Director of Student, Parent, and Employee Service Center. Mr. Saavedra, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, and Superintendent Blakey, good evening. Again, I'm Jean Saavedra, Executive Director of Student, Parent, and Employee Service Center. Today, I bring before to you the ethical advocate data from December 1st, 2024 to March 31st, 2025, which was shared with you. As a quick overview, whistleblower complaints are filed primarily through ethical advocates, which allows for anonymous reporting. I follow the procedural directive when receiving reports. I review the reports and then send them to the direct supervisors and an individual one level above the chain of command. So the two levels of supervision are notified, or supervisors are notified. As you can see, we've received 75 whistleblower complaints from July 1st, 2024 to the end of March 31st, 2025. The reports in your packet provide a breakdown of the data by several different categories. The types of complaints seem typical for to previous report timeframes, and at this point, I stand for any question. Excuse me.
Thank you, Mr. Saavedra. I'll open it up to the committee. Are there any questions on the ethical advocate?
I do have a question. Chair,
Josefina, Chair. Member Dominguez.
I've got a strategic question. What new insights does this report offer? And how are we documenting trends if we're able to do that?
Thank you for the question, Board Member Dominguez. I think on the first part of it, what insights, the concerns or complaints seem to be typical. I don't know that there's any, specific insight that you could say that there's a category, one or more, that we see as far as being reported. I can tell you that it's down from previous years. And I think that's based on the fact that a lot of people will call us and voice their concerns through Let's Talk, which has helped a lot because we're able to, in a timely manner, take care of those concerns. As far as anything that, collecting the data, the trends, that's within the data that I provided. So you can see that, there are different reports coming in different ways for different reasons as far as the data is concerned. It's, elementary schools and then high schools seem to be right there with, the higher numbers. But and that's how we, continue to track the data, is just looking at where those complaints are coming in and what's actually coming in and working with the departments that are receiving those concerns and complaints.
And I have a follow-up if that's okay.
Yes, go ahead.
So how did the stats, and yes, I did notice elementary schools, and that doesn't surprise me. They are, I think, well, maybe I should just ask you, what do you suppose the reasons are for the higher numbers at the elementary school level? And then how do these stats inform a strategy to impact guardrails 4 or 5?
I wish I could say I knew the reason for the elementary schools having a higher number. I can say that the majority of those come from employees. There's concerns within the elementary schools that, employees voice some of these concerns, and those are where we find those coming in at elementary schools. If you can see those numbers there, that's where the highest number is. As far as a strategy, as we work with the supervisors of the different schools, for example, those conversations, as they have those with their principals, or the principals have them with their teachers based on what's going on with that complaint or that concern, that's where they develop the plans. We don't necessarily, work with that plan for them. Or, sometimes if they ask our advice, we'll guide them in that way. But the supervisors are the one that directly work with the school principals, and the principals work directly with their teachers based on any concerns or complaints that come in. I hope that answered the question.
Well, I mean, as best as you can, yes. And I was going to ask, some of these complaints are, I looked at your charts, and a lot of them fall under other. And do you have like what does other mean?
Well, so I don't categorize those. What happens is when they fill out the report, they pick the category. So they go in and pick other, they'll pick the reason for their concern or complaint. And that's how it's categorized. So we don't classify that here. They do it, the person voicing that concern.
So your system doesn't have like the Let's Talk thematic. It seems that Let's Talk can identify a theme, an ongoing theme somehow.
Not necessarily, because one person's reason they choose other might not be another person's reason for choosing other. It's not consistent. Sometimes they just, they pick other because they can't find a category that they feel is something that they want to voice.
Yes, and I know you can only report on what your program allows you, or the information it gives you. And I appreciate your answers. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Dominguez. Are there any other questions from committee members? Okay, seeing none, I will just kind of follow up on something Board Member Dominguez said. In regards to the fact that we do see employee numbers a little bit higher in the elementary school, it might behoove us as a district to maybe try to understand why they're coming in on the employee elementary side a little bit higher. That's probably an important data point that the district can take into consideration, especially if those issues start to become consistent. So seems like this is a good data point to maybe dig into a little bit further is my comment on that. Board Member Tomorito, I see that you have your hand up.
Yes. My question falls into I think it's the last topic where the internal numbers seem to manifest most of the complaints. Would like to know, since they're internal, one, are we looking at not only how we address them, but just as Josefina stated, the patterns that exist? Are we looking at in any way to change some of those internal mechanisms to make it better, or look at some of the patterns that are facing, these complaints that are internalized? So because those are the things that we can change. So I'm just wondering if that's a possibility.
I'll do my best to answer that question, but I think one of the things, just again, every one of these reports go to the direct supervisor, okay? And so the supervisors have those reports and the information within those reports to address the concern or issue that comes with it. I think that, again, in working with the supervisors of the schools, some of those might be consistent within a school, and some of them might be, we have a lot of elementary schools, over 88 elementary schools, for example, 144 schools total, but we have a large number of schools. And so it could be that one school gets two concerns or complaints, and then the rest are spread out. And so I don't know in the supervisors meetings if they're looking at specific trends within those meetings, but I know as far as us tracking it, we're tracking it by categories, and we're tracking it by types, not necessarily by specific, within the school, what's happening specific within the school. That's the supervisors that do that as they get that information. And then as they report back, they have those conversations with the principals, or the principals have those conversations with their teachers as these things come in, or those things are investigated outside of the district, depending on the type of concern or complaint, and then reported back.
Thank you, Mr. Saavedra. Board Member Tomorito, do you have a follow-up or any further questions? No? Okay. All right. Any other members of the committee? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to move on to item 5.2. Our next item is the overview of APS internal controls. Our presenters tonight are Renette Apodaca, Chief Financial Officer, Mark Turnbull, Executive Director of Accounting, and Amanda Boyle, District Controller of Accounting. And before I turn the floor over, I will say this, as nerdy as this sounds, has always been one of my favorite presentations, because I think it lays out very well what internal controls you guys have, and it always warms my heart to know that you have such a robust control mechanism. So I will turn the floor over to you, Ms. Apodaca.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Superintendent Dr. Blakey. The presentation in your packet is our annual overview of internal controls to mitigate risk associated with fraud, waste, and abuse. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Mr. Turnbull to provide information on our legal obligations.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Blakey. So again, I'm going to introduce you the regulations and guidance we follow for where our internal control guidance comes from. First, we are obligated by law to establish and maintain an internal control structure, including board policies and procedures. In order to establish that structure, we reference several sources. First is a framework issued by the Committee of Sponsoring Organizations of the Treadway Commission. This framework aims to enhance the reliability of financial reporting and ensure compliance with regulations. We also get guidance from the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. It plays a key role in defining and promoting internal controls, particularly in the context of financial reporting. They offer resources and guidance on internal control frameworks, including the COSO framework, and provide training and understanding and implementing effective internal controls. We also get guidance from the Federal Office of Management and Budget for the publication OBM Circular A-23. This publication outlines the management's responsibility for internal control in federal agencies. It provides guidance on establishing and maintaining internal controls to ensure efficient and effective operations, financial management, and accountability. The circular also requires agencies to report annually on the effectiveness of their internal controls, which is included in our annual audit we do each year. The district does each year. And then we also have a publication from the General Accounting Office called the Standards for Internal Control in the Federal Government. This publication provides guidance to federal managers on improving the accountability and effectiveness of federal programs and operations by establishing, assessing, correcting, and reporting on management controls. So with this, I'm going to turn it over to Amanda Boyle, the controller for the district. She's going to discuss the types of controls.
Okay, Chairman of the committee, members of the committee, Superintendent Dr. Blakey. On this slide, you'll see that we have 3 types of internal controls. The first is preventive, and these are designed, controls that are designed to deter or prevent an adverse event from occurring. The second type is detective, and these are controls that will discover or detect an issue. And then the third type is corrective. These are controls that are implemented after the detective controls discover an issue. So if we can go to the next slide, a good way, oh, can we back up one? Sorry. Okay, good. A good way to think of the difference between these is if we imagine the district like a school building. So our preventive controls, those would be things like locks on doors, ID badges. They're again designed to stop a problem. So if anyone without authorization tries to enter, the lock prevents it. Similarly, in our division, things like segregation of duties or approval of purchases, those are designed as preventive controls. Next, detective controls. Those would be things in a school building like security cameras, motion detectors, or our Centegic badges. So they don't stop someone from getting in, but they help identify or detect when something suspicious happens. And in our role, that includes things like reviewing monthly financial reports or bank statements and audits. So it doesn't stop an issue, but it helps catch it quickly. And the third control, corrective controls, that is if someone did manage to get in or break a window. So our response would be to fix a window, update security procedures, install better locks. Again, in our world in finance, that would be things like disciplinary action or training, or improving or strengthening policies to make sure the problem doesn't happen again. And I would like to point out that we have a very detailed control environment maintained here at APS. We use it to minimize our risk, reinforce our internal controls, and make sure that our spending stays aligned with student-based outcomes and goals and guardrails. Basically, that means that all of our financial functions go through a structured review and approval process. Each request goes through multiple levels of scrutiny, including site administrators, finance approvers, and leadership oversight before any funds are released. Financial functions are not made unilaterally, even at the highest levels of our organization. They require consensus and documented approvals from the appropriate departments. And these decisions, of course, are presented to the board for approval and review and are, of course, submitted to PED. And so with that, I will turn it back over to Renette. Thank you.
Renette, you are on mute.
Sorry. In the rest of our packet, we outlined some of each of the controls. So we have preventive controls, and then we outlined preventive controls in each of the areas, budget, procurement, payroll, accounts payable, grant management, general ledger, capital fiscal, and then we also have a listing of detective controls. We do 100% audit on a lot of our transactions and 100% approvals on our transactions. Additionally, we put in some information on corrective controls. I think one of the most important things is we do a root cause analysis, and we do look at the audit trail to make sure that we update our processes. And if necessary, we work with HR. We do require mandatory training, and we do report back to the Board of Education. You will see that in our external audit and also in the audits you will be looking at today in executive session. In addition to all of these items that are in your packet, we also conducted an internal risk assessment. So we looked at every area in finance. We identified any risk associated, and then we identified internal controls to mitigate that risk. This exercise of doing the internal risk assessment is above and beyond any legal requirements or standards, but it is a best practice. So we ensure to do that. We look at that risk assessment every year, like we look at this. So it doesn't just go on the shelf, but it is continuing updating if there's any changes in laws or regulations. So with that, we stand for any questions.
All right, thank you very much. And as you guys will notice, I did ask the finance team not to just read the PowerPoint to us since we had access to this early. So I appreciate you still giving us really good information. And so I will open it up to the committee members. Are there any questions regarding the APS internal controls? Board Member Dominguez.
I'm afraid to mute, and so I hope it's not no noises. It's quiet here, but I'm afraid to mute because they may not come back on.
You're good. You're good.
How do these controls impact? And I can't read our overall strategy or CP. I can't figure out what I meant by CP. Forgive me. Overall strategy. And maybe that's accounting. I'm not sure, because as I was listening, it occurred to me that some of the complaints last year were about or came from the CTE area instructors. It was mostly home ec teachers who felt like they couldn't get their hands on materials quickly enough to get their students, doing what they were supposed to be doing in the class. So as I'm hearing the report, we have very strict control, but we haven't heard complaints this year. That doesn't mean they're not there, but I'm hoping that. So how does your department, how How have you resolved those concerns about too much control?
Board Member Dominguez, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Superintendent Blakey, something that we discovered that is helpful is we started to develop an aging report on the requisitions that are entered into the system. And this aging report looks to see if they are stuck at a specific approval level for an extended amount of time. So we sent out a notice at 1 day, 3 day, and 5 day to be able to see if an approver needs additional help to get the requisition moving, because that was part of the root cause analysis we did last year, was to be able to pinpoint where requisition was in an approval for an extended amount of time. So that helped with this with the streamlining without losing the internal controls. The second thing we did was allow purchases with the procurement card. So the procurement card has a little bit more flexibility, and most of the purchases fell in what's considered a small purchase. So again, if we look at risk and impact, most of those fell into the category of low risk, low impact. So we were able to use the procurement card. Another thing that we did was be able to identify where there was purchases that were frequent and be able to establish contracts with vendors. So if we had those contracts in place, multiple quotes are not needed, and the internal control and compliance is done ahead of the purchase. So it helped us anticipate and be strategic. So I believe those 3 items really helped with the issues you identified.
Thank you. That was a great answer. And I hope people are listening.
Thank you.
Board Member Dominguez, do you have any further questions?
I don't think so, but let me double check. Nope, I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Any other members of the committee with questions? Okay, seeing none. The only statement I will make is I really appreciate, again, the robust internal controls that are present within APS. And I think the more that we can have this information out in the public, the better, because ultimately what we're attempting to do is to protect the funding from fraud and embezzlement and make sure that the money that is meant for our students actually gets to our students. So thank you for keeping a keen eye on how all this stuff flows through the APS system. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, not seeing any further questions, I will move to our executive session, item 6.1. Our next item is to consider approval for the Board of Education to convene an executive session as authorized by the Public Meetings Act, Section 10-15-1H2, to discuss limited personnel matters in connection with activity funds. May I have a motion, please?
I move that we convene an executive session as authorized by the Public Meetings Act, Section 10-15-1H2, to discuss limited personnel matters in connection with activity fund audits. This is Board Member Benavides.
May I have a second?
I'll second. This is Board Member Dominguez.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Ronaldo Tomorito,
Yes.
Heather Benavides,
Yes.
Josefina Dominguez,
Yes.
Superintendent Blakey,
Yes.
Renette Apodaca,
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes. The meeting will reconvene to open session after the executive session. At this time, I would like to ask all those people who are not part of the executive session to please leave the meeting. And I will wait for Mr. Gonzalez to give me the cue.